Welcome to the 114th episode of the Wonderspace podcast, which is an expression of a family trust called Panapa. My name is Steve Cole, and since September 2020, I have asked the same 6 questions to over 100 people from around the world. To mark 100 episodes of Wonderspace, we chose to focus on the issue of statelessness, an issue that impacts the lives of over 500,000 people in Europe. I had the privilege of asking our 6 questions to Christiana from Munich, who is stateless and leads a network of stateless activists called Statefree. This week's episode comes from Madrid and captures hopeful stories from 24 people attending a 2-day conference organised by the European Network on Statelessness. 220 people came together with over 50 stateless activists, bringing lived experience into the heart of every session. Someone described this issue of statelessness as the phenomenon of invisibility. And so being at this conference was for us at Wonderspace about keeping this issue visible by signposting to people, organisations and networks who are leading the way in this complex issue. Before we hear the 24 stories of hopefulness, I asked the founder and director of the European Network on Statelessness, Chris Nash, to define what we mean by statelessness.
To be stateless is to be denied a nationality and to lack many of the rights that many people take for granted, to go to school, to see a doctor, to get a job. And this is a condition which is currently afflicting over 10 million people worldwide and over 500,000 in Europe. And this is a lot down to lack of awareness and lack of political will, and we need to fix that.
And what was the main purpose of bringing people together in Madrid?
For us as a network, it's really important for us to gather in spaces which combine, a variety of stakeholders, ranging from stateless people and communities themselves, to NGOs, to lawyers, to academics, to government, to UN and regional institutions. And for us, what's critically important is that if we're able to unite together in a space and where stateless people themselves are centered in the discussions, then we really can start to build the coalitions that we need to bring about change and to help improve the treatment of stateless people all across Europe.
Finally, Chris, what are the outcomes politically or organisationally you would like to see from this conference?
It's no coincidence that we held the conference in Madrid on the eve of Spain assuming the presidency of the EU. We've been talking to the Spanish government about its presidency behind the scenes for a year or so now, but to have them come to Madrid to our conference, represented at a high level, and make really concrete commitments about addressing statelessness during their presidency, that hopefully will be game changing. They were up on the podium talking about, how they can hopefully encourage and translate their good practice at country level across countries all over Europe. And, they really were emphasizing how, you can't, for example, address asylum properly if you're not identifying statelessness. And this sort of recognition that, statelessness is an EU issue was also powerfully made by the other high-level panelists, MEPs, UNHCR, and other decision makers and policy makers who can, help us bring about the change that we need to see.
There were so many remarkable people in Madrid. Here are 24 of them, briefly responding to the question, what is your story of hopefulness that's not your own, about a person, business or non-profit who are doing amazing things for the world?
Hi, my name is Sirazul Islam and I work for the British Rohingya community. And my story of hope today from the conference is Lynn's story. She's a stateless person from Sweden and she has faced many difficulties, but despite her difficulties, she not only manages to advocate for herself, scapegoat for other stateless people around Europe and around the world. And she's not afraid to say how it is. And she's very, very blunt about the issue and the need for change in this area.
Okay, well, I'm Gillian Triggs, and I'm with the UN Refugee Agency here in Madrid. And the thing that really comes to mind for me is that we talk about people who are stateless, but what we're doing is trying to give them the voice so that they speak from their own experience. And that we think is the most powerful message, although, of course, we will back them up.
So my name is Diego Acosta. I'm a professor of migration law at the University of Bristol in the UK. And my home story is about Ermelinda, who is a domestic worker. She has lived in London for over 20 years. And 2.5 years ago, she managed to regularize her status. So now she has a residence permit. She's now 73 years old. And last Christmas, she managed to go and visit her family in Colombia for the first time in longer than 20 years. So that's my hope story.
I'm Charlotte. I work at Statefree, and my story of hope is this community coming together here for this conference and coming together to work on statelessness and to fight for more rights for stateless people. I'm Sam Ballaton-Crimes. I work at Deakin University in Australia, and my story of hope comes from a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Sahara Abdi, and she belongs to the Somali community in Kenya. And she's done amazing work with this marginalized community, especially in the northern part of the country, improving children's literacy. And so she's done heaps of fundraising. She's written her own fantastic books, which I strongly encourage you to track down, where she tells stories for Somali children about Somali, so they can, see themselves represented in literature and develop for themselves a love of reading. I'm Judith Carter. I work at the University of Liverpool Law Clinic. My story of hope is ENS, which has built an incredible alliance of stateless people, lawyers, academics, policy people, and brought us a great weight that we can bring on governments in a way which would have been impossible by ourselves, absolutely impossible. So I'm hoping that the work that ENS continues to do supports the work for my clients who are stateless people.
My name is Yunus Mohammadi, and I am representing Greek Forum of Refugees, which is a network of refugee communities. And I'm very happy being part of this network, European Network of Stateless, which through this network, we made it. Actually, I can say that now we are speaking freely about statelessness in Greece, which is a country at the gate of Europe. And now we are so hopeful that stateless peoples and stateless journeys get the right that they deserve.
My name is Nina Murray. I'm head of policy and research at ENS. I'm feeling very inspired by all the stateless activists and change makers who are in the room today. And I would just like to give a shout out to Statefree, the Apatride Network, and Le Freak, who are three of many others as well in the room today, but who I think are really inspiring and brave and standing up for their rights in a way that we all need to listen to and pay attention to. And it's great to have them here with us.
My name's Francesca Brady. I am associated with University College London, but also the Helen Bamba Foundation. My story of hope is really the grassroots organisations that I've met through my work. So people like the Q80 Community Association in Northwest London, and some other organisations that are very much led by people who have lived experience of statelessness, who are doing so much to support other people in their community with such limited resources and really carrying that optimism and hope for the future for themselves and their community.
Hi, my name is Drury Dyke. I work with Salon for Democracy and Human Rights. The impact of stateless Middle Easterners arriving in Europe is incredible. It's an untold story. But the organization Hawiyati, which has modeled itself on the European network on statelessness is a sign of hope. They're coming together to shed light and expose what's happening in the Middle East and its impact in Europe. Is something that I think should be encouraged. Hawiyati is an Arabic word, means my identity. And that's really what's at stake here, because their identity has been eliminated, extirpated, removed. And that the shadow of that is replicated in the European experience.
My name is Valeria Ilareva, and I'm the chairperson of the Foundation for Access to Rights in Bulgaria. We work with asylum seekers, refugees, migrants, and stateless persons in Bulgaria. We provide legal aid to them, and we come across amazing people among this population who are waiting for years for a resolution of their case. And everything around them is saying, give up, you will be rejected. All the messages that receive from the authorities, from what happened around them to other persons in their situation is giving them the message, give up. But what I can testify as a lawyer for over 20 years is that those who do not give up, they, at the end of the day, win. They shouldn't give up.
Hello, I'm Teshidi from Colectivo Lefrig. We are actually from Western Sahara, so we born as a stateless people under colonization of Morocco. And actually, we been living in Spain like kind of 20 years. And for all these years, we were like stateless. And my inspirational personal, when I think about somebody, is I remember the politician, I am Irsi Ali. Irsi Ali, she's from Africa. She's African woman. And I remember reading her book with 12 years because my Spanish mother was telling me all the time, oh, look at this girl. She really is similar to you physically. And then I started reading her life, all the courage she had to migrate to Europe. She was like fighting against kind of like very conservative Islam part in her country and trying to speak up for the women, especially women, African women, who was facing genital mutilation and stuff like that. So I felt really inspired about her because she came here to this country. She ran away from her country because they obligate her, and she fight for getting her papers, and then she ended up a parliamentarian. But I remember reading that book 3 times after and feeling like inspired by her. And actually, I kind of followed her steps. And I ended up joining political parties because I believe as a refugees and as an immigrant people, we need to be part of the institutions. We need to be part of these governments that they deliver and they analyze laws for us as a people, but they never ask us what we want, how we can make better laws, better politics for you as a civil society.
My name is Laura Van Waas. I work for the Institute on Statelessness and Inclusion. My story of hope is the inspiring as ever United Stateless in the US, where stateless people found each other for community and are now coming together to really change the system. And they fight the good fight every day in public against the odds, despite what stigma they have to deal with.
My name is Abdul Kalam Azad. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at Vrije University at Amsterdam. But the story I'm willing to share is a story of a community in Assam in India. It's a Mia community. It's a community which has been going through a lot of challenges. The most important one is the challenge of citizenship. They're losing their citizenship. They are becoming this in situ stateless people in large number. But what we see that the community is building up resilience. They are becoming the resources they need among themselves. The community is helping each other to fight for citizenship rights. So that is a very fascinating story for me.
My name is Jamila Hitchens. I work for Asylum Aid in the UK, and my story of hopefulness is Judith Carter, who runs the law clinic at University of Liverpool, which gives free advice to people applying for statelessness and does really good work both on that and on policy and on working with the Home Office.
Hi, I am Niloa Rangel. I am a refugee from Venezuela. I volunteer with the British Red Cross and particularly with Voices Network. I claim asylum in the UK and I was granted asylum under humanitarian protection. Everybody deserves a nationality. Everybody deserves a country to call home. Because when you flee your country, it's not because you want to, it's because you have to. You have to survive somewhere else. I'm a doctor. It's been so hard to requalify, and I believe that this is a global phenomenon that is not going to end. We got to embrace cultures and be more inclusive.
I'm Carolina from Refugee Action, and my story of hope is about Statelessness, which is a European-wide organization that works to promote and produce country of origin information work, which is very needed in the asylum process as well as around statelessness. And I think they do wonderful work. They have a very strong group of volunteers and they've grown from strength to strength. And unfortunately, we need them more than ever.
My name is Jenna Al-Mushahidi from the Swedish Organization Against Statelessness, and my story of hope is Sofia Kordonets from the charitable foundation Right to Protection in Ukraine, where she's helping stateless Ukrainians with documentation, which can also help them flee the country.
Jim Clarkin, chair of the Fundamental Rights Agency. My story of hope from this conference is the visibility and centrality of stateless persons throughout this whole organization. It's very clear that their voices are to the fore, that everybody that speaks is speaking on their behalf or they're speaking themselves, and that it's very much the focus of the kind of solutions we want to face. So, these kind of things can often get underlooked or be tokenistic in other fora. And I have to congratulate the network for rightly ensuring that that is very much the case here.
My name is Jeremy Ross, and I'm really inspired by the work that Alexei and the Madrid network have done and are doing to really advance the discussion, bring people together towards the common goal, both with lived experience and without, but importantly, having the folks with lived experience leading the discussion about what happens to their community and pushing the discussion forward to secure the rights that they've always deserved and make sure they have the same fair chance that each of us has as well.
My name is Ikram Jalbout. I am originally from Palestine, but I was born in Syria. I used to work in Syria with UNHCR as refugee status determination eligibility officer. So I myself was the stateless one who used to do the interviews and the assessment for people of concerns to give them refugee status in Syria. 2020, I was stuck in Corona time in Europe while I was on mission for my work. And then I myself became the asylum seeker here in the Netherlands. I met Anila Noor, who's a Pakistani person who also was an asylum seeker in the Netherlands, but then she got the refugee status and everything. And she has just started up her own organization, which the name of the organization is the New Women Connectors. And Anila works so hard to give refugees the chance and the space and all political bodies to be able to participate meaningfully in the integration procedures, asylum procedures, and every other aspect to enable them to have a voice there.
My name is Alexis Ivashuk, and my organization is Madrid Network. It's a coalition of stateless individuals, communities, and stateless-led organizations in the European Union. And my story of hope is about Azuzbek Ashurov and his organization in Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan became the first country in the world that resolved statelessness. And Azizbek is a friend of mine, and we talked on a number of occasions and was inspired by his effort and passion in the work, but also raised my hopes up that resolving statelessness is possible, that if another entire country was able to do it, then it's certainly a lesson for many other countries.
I'm Sophie Muller, UNHCR representative in Spain. My story of hope is creating a protection network around the question of statelessness, finding protection and solutions together with stateless people, together with people at risk of becoming stateless, together with people who are stateless people and who want to be recognized as such and wants to access rights as stateless people and wants to access protection and solutions. So I think that the main takeaway from this conference is the strength of the network, is the strength of putting together very concrete suggestions for this political will that we all aspire for to be much more concrete and much more of a reality for everyone.
My name is Lena Al-Khatib. I'm an individual member of ENS, and my story of hopefulness is Sirazal, who's also a member of ENS, and he's this young boy that every time he speaks, I feel like I'm a proud mom. I get goosebumps because he speaks with grace. He speaks with very, very studied language. And every time I listen to him talking about statelessness, talking about his experience, and not only his experience, the experience of the people around him, and talking he studied law because he wants to see change. And I feel like if this guy, a younger generation than I am, have this tongue, then things gonna be fine in the future.
To find out more, go to the website of the European Network on Statelessness, where you will also find a link to member organisations from across Europe. Their website link is statelessness.eu. Globally, the UNHCR campaign called I Belong is another great source of information and can be found at unhcr.org/IBelong. Today, millions of people around the world are denied a nationality. This phenomenon of invisibility is a great injustice, and I'm sure that you would agree Europe and every continent should fully live up to its obligations to protect stateless people and ensure everyone's right to a nationality. Thanks for listening.